Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jumper and today I'll be doing my top 5 least favourite boss fights. Now, boss fights I would say are an interesting boss to fight because they are basically not only the final fight of any given game, but I think the culmination of the game as a whole. And yeah, I think a lot of boss fights are really interesting when it comes to their design, the way that their fights are done, and how long or short a boss fight can be. And there are some really great ones, but today's video is going to be my least favorite ones. So yeah. So for number 5 is Geeta from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now, when it comes to champion characters, so the champions in the Pokemon series, I would say Geeta is probably the most forgettable one, or has a team that's quite forgettable when it comes to the challenging her, because when it comes to other Pokemon champions, like with Blue, Cynthia, Diantha, or any of the other champions, they have something that's memorable to them. For instance, Blue, he not only is your rival throughout the whole of Red and Blue, but he's also one step ahead of you, and that's an interesting way of making a champion. Like, I'll just have someone who you've known in game for your whole life, and always make him one step better than you. And then you've also got Diantha, and in the context of X and Y, she has a member that can mega evolve, and even for Cynthia, not only does she have that intimidating piano piece, but also she's got a team that can just dominate the whole battle if you're not careful correctly, or if you don't bring, or if your team are severely underleveled. And even a Garchomp is a beast and is a tank, and it can dish out moves that are very strong, and as well as it can tank some of your other moves. So yeah, but with Geeta, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of her team, and I don't really remember a whole lot about her team. The only one that I remember is probably that weird starfish, floating jellyfish looking thing. I'm not 100% remember the name, but of that particular Pokemon. But her team is laughably forgettable, and it's not even close. So yeah, it could have been a whole lot better or but cooler if she had a bit more memorable Pokemon. I think she also may have a Kingambit. I think she might have a Kingambit. Now, don't 100% remember, because that's how forgettable this team is. It's just you. It could have been a whole lot better fight. So yeah. For number 4 is the Bowser fight from New Super Mario Bros. For the DS specifically. Now, with this Bowser fight, it's out of all the other fights that we've had with Bowser, it's probably the easiest fight to have, and I think it's because of two reasons. Well, yeah, but mainly because you can either use the Mega Mushroom or the Fire Flower. Now, the Mega Mushroom is pretty easy to use, well, because all it does is make Mario larger, and it can just trample anything in its path. So it's like, I'll just use this mushroom to just obliterate both Bowser Jr. and Bowser, and then you win. And with the Fire Flower, as you'll see by this clip. Okay, so Bowser, same as the other Bowser fights, but larger, and you can now spew out blue fire for some reason. Okay. Okay, jumping now, go! Oh no, okay. Okay, I'm just gonna take this for my... How many hits? Oh! Seriously, how many hits can Bowser take? Oh, okay, there we go. So as you saw by that clip, it's basically just you just spam one button and you win, and yeah, and that clip you just saw was from my Mario playthrough that I did, like when I first started the channel, and yeah, this fight it's pretty much the same as the other Bowser fights. If you include the dry Bowser fight, it's just either use those two power ups or just jump over him at the right time or under him at the right time, and then just hit the switch and then you win. So, and I know that New Super Mario Bros. For the DS and Mario games as a whole aren't meant to be challenging, but when you can just exploit certain elements of the game, I think that's where it could have been a bit more challenging. So yeah. For number 3 is the Tinkerer from Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now, with this boss fight, it kind of feels like a copy-paste of the Dr. Octopus fight in the previous game, in that you've got Miles Morales trying to sort of plead with his friend to not, his friend being the Tinkerer, to not use, basically not to use the reactor to try and blow up Roxxon, because it will blow up a whole bunch of Harlem. And it's kind of similar with the Dr. Octopus fight from the previous game, in that with that game, Peter Parker Spider-Man is trying to beg Dr. Octopus to basically stop his rampage and to try and do the right thing. And this is kind of similar with this in the Tinkerer fight. And I think it's not as good as that kind of fight, because it feels like both Finn, who's a Tinkerer, and Miles Morales kind of have a similar talk as Peter Parker and Dr. Octopus have in that fight, and it just feels a bit rushed, the fight as well, because it feels like as soon as you've done with one particular phase, it just goes straight to the next phase. And at least with the Dr. Octopus fight, it feels earned a bit, because we're going to know a whole lot about Dr. Octopus throughout the whole of the previous game. And with the Tinkerer fight, and as a whole, and as a character, we've kind of got to know bits and pieces of Finn throughout the game. Like, for instance, both Finn and Miles were friends when they were younger. Finn had a brother who was sick, and Roxxon sort of used him to make the new form, which is the thing that needs to be used to power up the generator. And yeah, and it's an interesting development of, like, okay, Finn's this is where Finn was before the main event of the game, and this is where she is now. And it's interesting, and I like it. I think the motivation doesn't hit as hard as the one with Dr. Octopus, because it makes a lot more sense. And with Dr. Octopus, as I said before, you kind of got to know him throughout the whole of the game. When you compare it to Finn, where you got to see her throughout different parts of the game, like about 4 or 5 times ish, and it's an alright fight. I do enjoy it. I just think a whole lot more. There could have been a whole lot more time to develop that. Not only the friendship, more of Finn and Miles, but probably the fight as well. Maybe that's just my opinion. So yeah. For number 2 is the Dark Beast Ganon fight from Breath of the Wild. Now, Ganon fights, in the literal sense of Ganon the monster, not Ganondorf the human, have all of different-ish fights. For instance, the Ganon fight in the original Zelda game is very different to the one you find in Breath of the Wild. And I think Dark Beast Ganon is probably the weakest one, or one of the weaker ones when it comes to Ganon the monster, because it's a whole lot easier. Because if you compare it to the Calamity Ganon fight, which is also in Breath of the Wild, Dark Beast Ganon is a whole lot more easier, because with Calamity Ganon, with that fight, it can go in one of 2 ways. One is the easier way, where you can just have the Divine Beast just take away half of Calamity Ganon's health, or you could just not defeat any of the Divine Beasts and not only fight Calamity Ganon, but also the other Blights that you didn't fight in the Divine Beast, and that makes that particular fight a whole lot easier. But with Dark Beast Ganon, there's only one thing you have to do, and that's just hit all the different weak spots, which are pointed out by these big glowing circles that's created by Zelda. And then for the final hit, just use a Bow of Light to hit Dark Beast Ganon in the forehead, where all those multiple eyes are. And the only thing that is cool that I like about the fight is probably at the very start of it, with that starting cutscene. That's probably the coolest cutscene or one of the coolest cutscenes in the game, just because of Zelda's speech and how courage is never forgotten, and that Calamity Ganon is trying to has been reincarnated so many times that he's just given up on reincarnating, and that's such a cool scene. But yeah, as a whole, the boss fight is pretty much easy. It's just it's really 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 easy. So yeah. And for number 1 is the Colossal Titan from Attack on Titan 2 Final Battle. Now, this is from the Season 3 section of the game, where with the main game it adapts Seasons 1 and 2. With Final Battle, you have Season 3. And I'm not a huge fan of this fight, mainly because it's a timed base boss fight, in that you have to stop the Colossal Titan from reaching Erin, and yeah, I'm not a huge fan of time-based parts or games as a whole, where you have a certain amount of time to do a particular boss fight or another part of the game. Like, for instance, Majora's Mask, that's entirely time-based, and yeah, you can rewind the days back to the start of the game, but I'm not really a huge fan of being rushed or timed on particular things. I'm a huge fan of just taking my time with stuff and just trying and failing multiple times. With the Colossal Titan, I just failed so many times with that boss fight. It's just because what you need to do is just hit the different weak spots on its body, so the legs, the arms, and I think the nape as well. And yeah, and you're doing this whilst the Colossal Titan is just moving slowly towards the other end of the battlefield. And yeah, I did manage to beat it eventually. I managed to beat the Colossal Titan, but it's just because the battlefield isn't that. It takes a long time, but it's not. But it's just one of those times that I just kept on failing again and again and again. And yeah, I'm not a huge fan of being rushed. I just felt like, okay, just take out this leg, then the arms and stuff like that, and just I really, really, really hate being rushed. So yeah. So that's been my top 5 least favorite boss fights. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.